Okay, so this is the Game On Netflix comedy crossover event, which calling this a crossover event might be a little loosely defined, I think. Rather than it being like a theme night, like back in the day, sometimes like on TGIF, you would see like some of the shows all take place in the same place. Like, oh, everyone's at Disneyland, and here's Full House at Disneyland, and here's Family Matters at Disneyland, and here, I mean, I know they didn't quite do that, but that was sort of the idea. Like, NBC did it too on their must-see TV. Like, there was they did a blackout storyline where Mad About You caused the blackout lasted through Friends and Seinfeld, and then ended on whatever the 8:30 show was at the time. I think it was Mad Men of the People with Dabney Coleman. But it wasn't like that. Instead, this is two sets of shows. They're four shows, but two different sets of shows crossing over with each other. So basically, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give a recap and review of the crossover episodes, sort of. I'm trying to explain this here as best I can. Basically, there were two crossover episodes per show. Okay, so each show had an episode where someone else from another show popped up. I think I got it okay. I'll try to explain the premise of these shows because these were all pretty entrenched shows on Netflix for the most part. The newest one is the Big Show, but like I said, I'll get to that. I'll try to recap and review the two episodes that enact the crossover. I'll give my review on it, and then I'm going to do that for the next two shows after that. There'll be a break in between, and there'll be another break. So, I hope that made enough sense for everyone. Anyway, our first two shows are the aforementioned Big Show. This is the show starring the Big Show, Paul White, former I guess current WWE superstar. Basically, he's playing himself as a retired wrestler, and he's raising his family, and his daughter from a previous marriage has decided to move in with them, and wacky shenanigans ensue. And then the other show it's crossing over with is Mr. Iglesias, starring Gabriel Iglesias. And this is basically the Welcome Back Kotter, head of the class type thing, where it's the wacky teacher who doesn't only just teach his students, he bonds with them as well, and serves as more of a teacher and mentor type figure. Yeah, pretty bare bones stuff. I mean, these are not very deep sitcoms. But we start off with the Big Show episode, which has this motif of a family competition thing at the school. The White family's rival family is the Ericksons, who have won 7 years in a row, and it's supposed to be kind of like, I guess this whole crossover thing was meant to cash in on the Olympics. Yeah, this was meant to cash in on the Olympics, and they still went ahead with it. You think when they called the Olympics off for this year, they would have maybe pulled the plug or pushed it back, but no, like the idea is on the Big Show, they're each representing a different country. The families are representing different countries. And this rival family to the Whites, the Ericksons, always gets the United States, and the Whites always get these kind of sort of funky sounding countries. In this case, they got the Federated States of Micronesia. And basically, they all have to compete except the one daughter who isn't athletic at all, and they basically put her in the position of team manager. Now, you think that this means that, obviously you could tell, guess who's going to wind up having to compete in the final event, but still. You would think that this is going to be this whole thing where she feels left out, she feels abandoned, but no, they don't do that. Instead, what they do is they have her meet up with other family members who have also been purposely pushed aside due to their unathletic nature, and she actually bonds with them, and she's happy. Like, she really does not want to compete at all, and she only competes at the last minute because she has to. There's no arc to this at all. It is just a straightforward story, and there's some funny points to it. It turns out like Big Show and the rival father bond over their love of musicals. That was kind of one of the only funny points in the show. The crossover happens when Gabriel Iglesias pops up because he is also unknowingly in this competition to win a Wave Rider that Big Show and the rival father are in, where it's one of those you put your hands on the vehicle and the last person to have their hand on it wins. And Gabriel Iglesias winds up winning it, even though he has no intention to use it. Yeah, so I want to say this about all of these shows. These shows are for people who think Disney Channel sitcoms are a little too dense. I mean, this was borderline simplistic. Like, again, Big Show's a funny guy, and I think he could carry a sitcom like this, but this was not a good example of that. And then we move on to Mr. Iglesias, the Olympic effort. Again, meant to tie it with the Olympics. In this case, he's teaching an SAT prep course, and he finds out one of his students has a fake doctor's note claiming she has dysarrhythmia, which is like mathematics-based dyslexia. And that means she gets extra time on her tests, I guess. It's a fake note, basically. She got a family friend who happened to be a doctor. A family friend who happened to be a doctor to write this fake note. And he's trying to teach the class a lesson about cheating, and all it does is the first 2 times he tries, it backfires, and they think cheating is cool, or they think the only way you can really succeed is to cheat, and like I said, it just sort of blows up in his face, and he's trying to set them right, and he eventually calls in the Big Show to try to scare them straight. Though there's also a subplot where Gabe's brother Tony is trying to manipulate a Make-A-Wish competition because they foolishly didn't put down an age limit on the website, so he's trying to get to meet Salma Hayek. And he thinks he actually won because he arranged for the Big Show to meet Gabe, but it turns out Gabe and the Big Show were already friends. Again, this one's also pretty bad, but I think it would have worked a lot better had the girl in question actually had dysarrhythmia, and that it kind of blew up in his face that way, instead of just assuming that just because she was rich and she didn't know what her condition was, that meant that she didn't. That could have worked a lot better than just proving the competition and having Big Show scare her. That didn't make any sense at all. Like I said, the storyline just did not work. And again, show not particularly funny. Just not. I mean, it's a lot of very lowest common denominator humor. It's all, ooh, this attractive person is attractive. Therefore, I say they are attractive, and then talk about dating them, and that's supposed to be funny because I would never have a chance to date them. Or the white kid who claims Usain Bolt is his brother. Yeah, that level of humor. So yeah, neither of these shows, like I said, of those, I don't even think the crossover worked very well. I don't know what the point of the crossover was. Again, I think it would have worked better had this been like some sort of family competition thing, and they were all competing on one show, instead of doing this separate shows thing, if you catch my drift. And yeah. So far I would not recommend either the Big Show or Mr. Iglesias unless you were already watching them. It just, again, neither of them really struck my fancy as being entertaining.
My brothers taught me about wrestling, but I taught them about eating.
So he brought us to pizza, and it's all-you-can-eat buffet.
You get hot, fresh pizza.
Thin crust or pan.
Plus, there's plenty of spaghetti, garlic toast, and a salad bar.
All for a super low price. That's why I'm paying today. Kev, let me pay.
I'll pay for this one. You two pay for the pizza to go.
Pizza to go? I thought you were full.
These are for Dad.
Yeah, sure.
For pizza out, it's pizza in. Yeah.
Okay, as we go into our next crossover, if you thought I didn't like the first 2 crossovers, they were actually pretty good compared to this show. This show is called Ashley Garcia, Genius in Love, or The Expanding Universe of Ashley Garcia, because apparently they just couldn't settle on a title. They literally, there are trailers for 2 different shows out there with this same show but different titles, and one calls it, the one for the Game On crossover still calls it Genius in Love. But then the second one, but every other trailer I found, so and Netflix itself calls it expanding universe. So I don't know what's going on there. And this is another Olympic episode, and it revolves around a competition involving a burrito recipe. The premise of the Ashley Garcia show, and that's just what I'm going to call it, is Ashley Garcia is this 15-year-old science prodigy who got a job at NASA, but she's in Los Angeles for some reason. She's like a robotics engineer, but she's still 15, and she still hangs out with her Los Angeles-based friends. And there's one kid, she has her best friend whose name I can't remember at all. There's Tad, the hunky guy who both girls have a crush on, and then there's Stick, the guy who clearly has a crush on Ashley, but she doesn't notice him because he's nerdy or whatever. Again, this is painfully unfunny. I mean, painfully unfunny. And she's living with her uncle Victor, who is a former Dallas Cowboys place kicker, and he also he got a field goal blocked in like the Super Bowl or something, and he got kicked out of, he was released, and he basically opened his own coffee shop. And it turns out this cheerleader who was on the team opened a rival coffee shop, and not only that, stole a recipe, a family recipe for a 7-layer breakfast burrito. And now they're competing in this Olympic competition to see who gets the rights to actually use this recipe. My God, that is a mouthful. And again, just not funny. Like, the Ashley Garcia character should be relatable, and she's just not. It's like she's supposed to be a genius, but she comes across as being so stupid. Like, again, most smart kids have at least a passing knowledge of pop culture, and the idea is it's this tiered competition. So Ashley is competing with her friend in Mind Reader, where you hold the card up over your head, and so the person tries to relate sort of a password or $25,000 pyramid type thing. And then there's a cornhole game, and then there's paper football. And it turns out the nerdy kid is actually really good at paper football, and Tad, the hunky guy, is not. But then the nerdy kid burns his hand trying to light the ceremonial torch for the competition, and they have to try to teach, this is the only funny part of this, is they have to teach Ted to be good at paper football. And the only way he can do that is to literally start acting like the nerdy kid. That was the only funny part of this. The rival, who is played by Ava Longoria, they start playing, and again, because Mind Reader winds up being pop culture based, Ashley flops on it and she runs off, and they have to like hold the competition, because it turns out too that the paper football ended in a tie when they broke the table. Again, I'm sorry, this is such a damn mouthful. There's too much stupid going on in this. And then Mose and Coco from Family Reunion, the next show I'll explain the premise of, they show up because of some convention of retired football players. Anyway, they have to judge the deciding staring contest, which Ava Longoria wins, but then she later admits that she actually always had feelings for Victor, the uncle, except it then turns out they're actually related. Incest joke! Yeah, and that's why they both knew this burrito recipe, because it came from divorced, like, great-grandparents or something like that. It's bad. Like, that was really bad. Like, painfully unfunny. Just why they thought this was a good idea for a show. You had, listen, I'm all for a show with predominantly Latino cast. Like, that's fine. Do that. You had a show with that. It was called One Day at a Time, and you canceled it for some reason. Oh, this was bad. Like, just, ugh. Yeah. Anyway, like I said, just completely ignore that one. Yeah, and that moves us on to our last show in this crossover, Family Reunion, Remember the Family's Feud. Family Reunion is a show about Mose and Coco. Mose is retired football player who played in Seattle. They elect to move back to their hometown in Columbus, Georgia, and to basically be closer to the family. And Coco, Tamara Mowry, one of the Mowry sisters, I can't remember which one, I'm sorry, is very kind of new agey in her parenting style, and the grandparents are a little more traditional. They're not like conservative Republican or anything like that, just they're very kind of set in their ways, parenting wise, and so you get a little bit of culture clash in there. The McKellans have an oldest daughter, Jade, who is very kind of teenagery and flighty. They have two sons, Shaka, and I forget the other one's name, and the youngest is Amy. And they're sort of, and basically in this case, the whole family finds it, they rekindle an old feud with another family called the McCoys. Again, rival families. Again, however, this is over the country games bit where both ends were accused of cheating multiple times, and they got banned for 25 and 34 years respectively. And they wound up having to, and they're finally allowed to compete again, and they're on this watch list. However, the grandkids, the two youngest granddaughters, bond and decide they don't like competing at all, and they just kind of want to leave, and so they do, and everyone gets worried, and they realize they have to work together. I will say this, Family Reunion is probably the best of these, and I think that's because of the performers. There's very good performers, and like I said, I'll check. I mean, yeah, like I said, Tia Mowry, okay? I got it right. Tia Mowry, Loretta Devine, Richard Roundtree, really, yeah, good, strong performer. Like, even Jaleel White appears in this a few times. He's actually pretty good in this. In case you're wondering what the crossover was, the Ashley Garcia. Ashley and Victor show up for some reason, and Ashley winds up defecting to the McKellen side because it turns out Victor is related to the McCoys for some reason. I can't even remember. I will say, again, I thought Family Reunion was probably the strongest of these shows. It still wasn't very good, but if I had to watch another episode, I don't think I would be too opposed to it. I thought that was more like this. That was a C- show where the other ones are all like D's and F's. So yeah, this was probably the best of these shows, but still, I don't know if I would recommend this even to fans of these shows, just because it was really convoluted and again meant to cash in on the Olympics, which aren't happening right now. Again, you'd think you would just push this back a year, or even until, say, February or something, where maybe you can get more of that spirit involved, because it just didn't make any sense at all. Yeah, so overall I'm going to give this Game On Netflix comedy crossover, I'm going to give it an F. I mean, it's not really worth anyone's time, really. I thought it might be interesting. I thought, hey, you know, try something new, see if there's anything you like. And again, I didn't completely hate Family Reunion, but like I said, I'm not going to make any active decision to try to watch it. So yeah, I thought this was pretty good. Well, that was really bad, actually. I'm sorry. A Family Reunion was okay, but all the others were all just pretty bad, and I wouldn't really recommend watching any of them. So yeah, it gets an F.
Breakfast!
Morning,
Gramps.
Morning, Mom.
Morning, dear.
Hi, Gramps.
Hey, kiddo.
So, Mom, what the heck's for breakfast?
I'll have your sourdough breakfast sandwich with the fresh egg and ham and cheese.
Oh, put me down for one of them breakfast biscuit whatchamacallits. The big one with sausage, egg, and cheese.
Mom, the nearest Jack in the Box is 100 miles away.
Did I ever tell you how difficult your birth was?
Got your keys?
Okay, so the next review will be up probably on Friday, late Friday, maybe early Saturday, and it'll be on the one and only Ivan, which is a movie being streamed to Disney+. Yes, I know about Mulan. Right now, I don't really have the $30 to pay for it, unfortunately, so maybe I'll get to it later if something happens, but not right now, unfortunately. Also, let's see, after that, I mean, it's going to be Phineas and Ferb, Candace Against the Universe, and then the rest of Season 1 of Muppets Now. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytime for Cat Productions, where you can help request a movie, even if it's something like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog or the next Purge film. I'll review it.